People should understand the context in which MA63 happened, right? There's a Vietnamese war going on. Communists were just across the South China Sea. Indonesia had a civil war, and Indonesia had started Konfrontasi against Sabah. There was a border invasion in Sabah, which the British fought off, and the Philippines had also tried to claim Sabah. So Sabah was kind of in a tricky spot. I mean, there are some, like Sun Pound, who say that like Sabah was not ready for independence because we didn't have enough people who'd been trained and prepared. But at the type of independence, there were only 19 people with degrees in Sabah. And if you include the teachers, there were possibly 60 degree holders, right? So, I mean, there are some who said we weren't prepared, but I think people just wanted to get out from under the colonial yoke. So my father, he was worried. He was originally not a supporter of the MA63, right? And I think he came round when he saw that between Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore joining together with Malaya to form a country, he thought that, you know, the three of them would have counterbalance and would be able to kind of have enough say, right, in a new Malaysia. And, you know, when Singapore left, really, they'd lost that balancing power, and they lost all that power. And I think then my father saw that he was very frustrated. You know, in the 60s were simpler time. You know, he had more time on Sundays. He'd have Sundays off. I mean, politicians today don't really have any time off, right? I mean, in those days, he'd Saturdays, Sundays, he would have time off for us. He'd still had the newspaper. And I think Herman Looping was working there too. I mean, there was a bunch of very respected, esteemed Kadazan leaders who were all working there, he'd kind of mentored, right? Working at the Sabah Times. My father was a larger-than-life guy. I think he loved people. He loved meeting people, worked very, very hard. He had a very hard life. He did not have a simple, easy life. He had been very ill. He had been isolated. You know, in those days, he had a mild form of leprosy. And for many years, he was isolated and lived on a beach by himself for 5-6 years while my uncle helped him. So, you know, he'd had quite a hard life, right? But he was always quite studious and quite a smart guy. And he spoke many languages. I think during the war, he picked up Japanese, spoke fluent Kadazan. He spoke, of course, English, Bahasa, Hakka, Murut. I think he spoke 6-7 languages, all pretty fluently enough to give speeches. I think he's a much more multiracial politician. He was always very concerned, you know, that Sabah was a melting pot. Don't forget, people didn't know Malaya very well in those days. We weren't so well traveled as we are today. So my father had not been all over West Malaysia, though he was very wary of, you know, neo-colonialism. And as things played out, he had every right to be worried about West Malaysia, neo-colonialism. My father's relationship with Tunku was not great, but I don't think Tunku really ever understood the multi-racial, multi-religious nature of Sabah. I mean, certainly my father's grandfather was Eurasian, but we've got some Kadazan, but he became the leader of the Kadazans. Right? His identity is very tied to the whole Kadazan people, and I think that's important. In my father's will, and he ends it by saying he wishes the best for the Kadazan, his beloved Kadazan.